Okay, so for week 11 of my learning log, I thought I would take this as my own point of view, as I use a lot of softwares for the course at the moment due to my dyslexia and dyspraxia. So this is kind of a bit like a day in the life of, as it were. So I'm going to share my screen and show you what it's like when I log on to my UCA. Yep, that looks about right. So my UCA, and this is week 11, and I would have watched the introduction to the week to know exactly what I have in store for me for this week, as it were. And we have an extra task to do for picking a slot, which I've already done. I then go to this bit, which is the Monday, Tuesday of the week, where we've got our reading list and watch list. And what I would normally do is I would go straight to the videos, such as this one, and this one, and there's another one there. And I'd start by going on to them. So I'd click on them, and I'd click on all of them so that they can begin to load. And let's put you down there. And there. And I'd wait for them all to load, and I'd work out.
Do you want to learn to draw professional and impressive artwork from people's minds?
Skip the advert. So as I can see, that's 8 minutes 51 seconds. This one is 2 minutes 18. And then this one, which I've watched already, is about 10 minutes 16. So I'd go to I'd arrange them in like order, length of how long they are, because I feel like I'd get the most information in a concentrated version, so my head would understand quickly what the topic is about. Because as soon as I see Tony's lists of this is 10 pages, and I think one of them's 30 this week, it's about 10, 11. I feel like there was a really long one this week that freaked me out a little bit. I mean, anything longer than about 4 pages freaks me out a little bit, in all honesty, but that's just me. So I'd watch these first and I'd take some notes, but usually I just write some notes in my journal and that's about it. So we'll just close those down. And then next on from there, I would read the titles to get an understanding of what the topic's going to be about. And then, in all honesty, I'd find the shortest reading I could find. So, for example, let's go with, I'm going to open up a few of these because they're all different for different reasons. So, this one, I would read the abstract first to get an understanding of it. And then this one was quite interesting because I got that it was meant to have a sort of audio reading, but it didn't want to work on my computer. And I'm wondering if that's because when I originally logged into this one, I had my own one up. So I go, as soon as I get a reading like this, I go to my programs and I launch Claro Read Plus. Now, originally I had Claro Read, which is just a reader of the screen. However, due to an issue I had earlier, which I'll talk about later, I got this one, which has a load of extras on it, which is lovely because I already had all these softwares originally, but I didn't use all of them at the same time because I kind of forget they're there. So now that I've got Claro Read Plus, it's all in one place, so it's a bit easier. Also, I thought. Sometimes it's not, however. So what I would normally do is I can scan from paper, scan from PDF, scan from screen. And to scan from screen, I literally just highlight it.
Students as collaborators in creating meaningful learning experiences in technology-enhanced classrooms, an engaged scholarship approach.
Bit clinical, bit mechanical, but it just about works for me because sometimes I see just a load of text and I get a little bit like, like I can't quite visualize reading it. So with this one, I took it by the subheadings, and went from there to kind of find the meaningful areas I needed. So this document, fairly simple enough to read. When I read, I can also bring up some of my extras. So Claro View changes the color of my screen. which might not do much difference, a little bit, but it's not going to have a huge effect on me tonight because it is the evening. I've got my warm colour glow that my Mac does when it becomes an evening setting. It's something I've discovered over the past year that I could do, and it feels more natural to me. So there's not a whole lot of difference because I've already got it on at the moment. But with this, I could choose the kind of overlay I had over it. And for me, I am in the reddy orangey side of things as opposed to the coolie side of things. But you can really be any colour. You can have a play around and see what works for you. But I'm usually a good orangey kind of colour. But this kind of feels like a layer of Photoshop where you're kind of losing some of the detail behind it due to it. Whereas if I close that down, it's already got a glow to it already. So there's that one I can use. And then there is also Screen Ruler, which is the other one I sometimes use. But again, it brings up another overlay. So again, it can feel a bit, if you've got all these overlays on top of each other, it becomes quite difficult just to read the screen anyway. But this one I can follow where it's going. So if I've got this being red.
In dealing with numerous challenges, higher education instructors need to adapt their pedagogically 217,113 to present students with meaningful, engaged learning experiences that are likely to promote student success.
So I can follow it. I mean, it doesn't follow the wording. I move my mouse to follow it. But it gives me another understanding of where I am in the document, which is something that I do struggle with, especially when there's a load of text. I will just get lost in it and I can't find it. And then I almost like zone out and then I zone back in. I think I've not listened to any of that at all. And if I'm in a lecture and that's happened, I'm a bit stuffed. If I've got my dictaphone on, that's great. I've recorded it. I can click a button to make like a chapter note. So then I know that when I'm listening to it, I've zoned back in again, kind of thing. But if it's this audio recording, sometimes I will have to listen to the recording several times to get it through my head a little bit. And then Clara Capture, I don't really use. See, now this is going to annoy me because I've got this in the way whilst I'm trying to run another program. That's another one I'll show later. So Clara Capture records kind of what you want. So if you've got a quote, so I can do capture text from screen, which is what I've done before. This is good if it is a JPEG that's got a quote on it, or a PDF that doesn't let you copy, because you can kind of just, like the other one, copy and paste. And it should generate there, which is great. The only trouble is it doesn't give me any inclination of where it came from. It just says the screen capture and the date. So doesn't really help. But I can put it in a Microsoft Word document. But at that point, I think when I just copy and paste it onto a Word document, so it's only really if it is a picture that I use that one. And now I'm not going to be able to turn any of these off. So I'm going to turn off that one. And suddenly the screen's better. It's almost like when you go to the glasses people, opticians, and they go lens 1, lens 2. You suddenly take it all off and you can see. So that's that one. So let's then get rid of that one. So what makes a good student? That is a good one to give as an example, because this document I hated. I really, really hated. And not only because of just how much I had to read from it, the font is awful. I can't decipher this. To me, it just looks like a square and a block kind of thing. Like, I can tell there's words in it. I just can't churn it up to make sentences, really. And another reason why I don't like it is it loses half its words in an attempt to make it look, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing or something. They've cut off their words to make it an exact square. And this is another reason why I hate it, because if I scan from screen, let's go with these 2 sentences.
Outcomes. 2 types of achievement emotions can thus be distinguished. Activity emotions pertaining to ongoing achievement.
So I got that the word's distinguished, but that's because I had to really read beforehand. And if I'm trying to take in this information at the same time, and I've just listened to 20 lines of text that is only just about going in, and then I've got to decipher between words that are half said and kind of mushed together. There are some words that I think, what on earth is that? And I have to look back and realize it's expectancy or success. And it's a word I know, and I really, really do know it. But because of the way that the computer reads it and has read it back to me, it doesn't sound like a word. And that's, again, when I have to kind of stop and think about it again and go, oh, that's not right. What is this? What have I done wrong? How can I get this better? And I found that with this document, there was a lot of this kind of thing. And there's quotes from Zimmerman, and during this whole reading of this that I attempted, I thought it was two different people, because there's a point where it says Zimmer and then another point where it says man, and I thought, is that the same person? Is that a different person, kind of thing? And it can really disorientate you when the text is like this. So really didn't like this, didn't like the font of it, didn't like the reading of it. Also, I found that with this type of reading, oh no, see, I can scan from paper, which I didn't mean to do there. That is if I've got a special mouse that I can scan it with. I don't actually have that, but I can scan on a printed piece of paper for it to read out to me. So it happens with real paper and technology paper, scan from screen. So here.
There has been some progress in research in this area.
It's fairly straightforward. I can adjust the setting to make it slower or faster, but that is about right. But again, when you've got a whole load of text, it gets a little bit like, what? And yeah, so I didn't like this one. But if I go to, this was a nice one, I think. See, again, I remember the readings through how it looked on the page, as opposed to necessarily the information that was on it. If I looked at this and went, oh yeah, I liked this one because I liked the font was kind of inviting for me and it was spaced out. And even the font is easier to read on here, I find.
The broad application of student-centered approaches to learning has much in common with other.
It just, I don't know if that's more psychologically me going, I can read this so I can follow it better. But for me, this type of font worked really well. I also liked that it has bits in bold as well, which helps to register straight away. I go, oh, okay, this is something I need to look at, or this is a subtitle I need to look at, subheading. And the other bit I liked about it was, if I scroll down, it's got your introduction. Here, they've got some nice bits of quotes and stuff that it's like, stop, just read this bit. If you're going to read anything on the page, read this. And it visually makes me think.
These student-centered learning approaches work to help students build self-confidence and motivation through learning experiences that match their abilities and interests, with the ultimate goal of supporting them to become self-directed learners.
And I really hope this is actually recording the audio, because otherwise it just looks weird when I just stop. But yeah, so I liked that it was this because it made me think visually. I stopped and went, oh, okay, I want to look at that. And yes, that's that one. I think this one I'm going to show you. When I go onto a YouTube page, I also check to see if there's probably not going to be yours. There we go. I also check the sides to see what other related topics there are. Usually there's a good few TED Talks on there. And I have a folder that was my phone, PG Cert training videos, where I put all of the reading lists in there and anything else that I think might be of interest. And I look at it after I've done the reading just to see if that helps as well. So that is that really. And then the other thing I will show you is I have slightly different. So and just allow that. Where's my other one? Oh, I've not got my other one. Bear with. Just go into my PG Cert week 4. Okay, so I used to have this program called Inspiration, which was fabulous when I was writing my dissertation. It's a way to make mind maps. And you can color coordinate it, which is something I love, and you can hyperlink things and add images, and there's a little button you can press that makes it turn all into a Word document, so you can kind of see it follow through. And that was my wonderful way of doing my dissertation at university, because when I was at university, all these programs that I had, Inspiration was one of them, Claro Read was another, but it was just the reading on the computer. And then I also had Dragon Dictate, which recorded what I said. And I had my dictaphone. And then I also had one-to-one sessions 1 day a week with my learning advisor. And we would talk about my theory, because my degree as animation was quite a physical thing. And I was fine there. And I could even just about pay attention and understand what was going on in the lectures if I had my dictaphone with me, because sometimes I could really understand what was going on in the session, and then I could walk away and not quite remember what the last list of 5 things were, or the thing that we were mentioned at the start of the day. So I would take notes with my notebook, but I would have the key elements in that. Literally, I'd walk away with maybe a page of writing where other people had got 4 pages of writing, because I'd trust that my dictaphone had the information I needed and I could go back to it later on in the day. When I had my theory, I would record the whole lecture and I would try and take more notes if I could. And then I would go to my learning advisor at the 1 day a week, which sometimes was literally an hour before my session for the following week, so I could go over the previous week's work. And we'd go through, and I'd have already listened to my recording again. We'd have the slides from the lecture and we'd just go through it, just sort of to get to understand, to check my understanding that I got everything. But we would also, when it got to points of like writing an essay, that kind of thing, we'd start working on mind maps and things. So that was Inspiration. However, I now cannot open these files because thanks to the latest Mac update, I could not access any of my learning support work. And when I was at university, I only really touched these for theory. For the PG Cert, I use them every day pretty much, because this is very much a research and reading based course, and that terrifies me. It's exciting, but it also terrifies me because this is one of my weaker points. And I was using them every day for the start of this course. And I'd come back off holiday and I updated my Mac, so it said that it needed an update. And none of my programs work. If I go into here, that's Clara Read, that's one I need. I now have Clara Ideas, which is good, but so many of my programs, Inspiration, I can't get to it. And I frantically emailed the companies that provided these softwares and said, look, I had these when I was at university, I have been assessed, I've done the payment for the assessment and all this stuff. I've done a recent update and it now doesn't work and I need access to my files, which thankfully, these ones I converted to a PDF so I can access them. But if I made any other changes to them, I can't access them. And that was pretty scary. So Inspiration were lovely and actually gave me a new login, but it's for PCs only because they no longer work with Macs. So I can't actually access it anymore, which is a big pain in the ass. But hey ho. However, when I went to Claro, I said, I had Claro Read and I named that I had Dragon and Inspiration and Olympus dictaphone recording software so that they knew roughly what sort of level I was on with the disability, because I was still trying to find my old documents to say what I had for the assessment, and I needed access to them now because I needed it for this week's worth of work, which I think was about week 6, week 5, something like that. And I was terrified. I was in tears because I physically struggled, and it was one of the weeks that we didn't have any video recordings, or we had one and it was like a 2-minute one, and I thought, I can't do this, the stress of this is killing me, I can't do this. I emailed Tony frantically saying that I've lost my software, I'm trying to work on it, and at that point I couldn't log into my UCA because Safari wasn't working, and I just thought my laptop is dead and this has killed my chances of anything. But I found the documents and I emailed them over, and Claro were amazing. And they said, no problem, here is our newest software that we've got that runs with Macs. You know, have it. And it gave me Claro Read, it gave me Claro Speak, which is a bit different. It's you type in what you want and it reads it aloud for you. So if you've got sentence structure and you are writing an essay, you can read it back to it, so you can hear how it would read, a bit like you would, as you saw earlier. But I don't really use that one. Claro Ideas is my new favourite, which is the replacement for my inspiration, as it were. It's very basic, but it does the job, and you can link stuff to it and add images, which you could before, change the font, change the thing. So that was good. I've got a good backup for that one. They're my notes for today. Yeah, that's kind of mostly it, really, because I've shown you what that does. But yeah, that's mostly it. That's how I work, really. And I've now lost you. There we go. Cancel. So that is kind of like a day in the life of me and my head, really. And I'll write some stuff that I'm sure I've forgotten. I'll put down in my learning log later. So